Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, Megan. Suck that water. Swallow it.
Okay, that's it for the podcast. I'm gonna go vomit. Ew. Sorry, everybody. Melissa was unhinged. Welcome to Don't Blame Me, starring Megan, who's thoroughly grossed out, and Melissa, the culprit.
What are you talking about, Megan?
Don't get no. No, I will not accept this. Welcome to the podcast. We
Living your
are
own delusions.
I'm sorry, I'm a Leo.
Am I
That's what I
gaslighting
do.
you?
That's what I was born to do. No, because I am not questioning my own reality. I know exactly what happened. Welcome to Don't Blame Me, the advice podcast starring two beautiful, gorgeous intellects. Yeah, what are you watching?
What am I watching right now? A lot of Real Housewives per usual, per new use, back to original. My soaps. I just finished Girls Five Eva, the second season. I really enjoy that show. It's funny.
I should watch it.
What else? Z-Way, of course. I think that's it right now. When I watch a show, I just binge it all. And Girls Five Eva isn't one that you can binge because the new episode comes out every week. But when I've been watching shows, I've just been binging them like in that day. So I watched Angeline a few weeks ago. That was weird.
That's the billboard lady.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know I've met her?
I'm waiting for my day to meet her. When I'm driving around, I'm looking for that pink convertible.
If anyone is unfamiliar, it is like actually I'm glad they like me. I want to watch the show. Like, I'm glad it's like a really, sometimes you think of like Hollywood stories and everyone's like, oh, I got discovered in a mall and then this happened, or like things like La La Land. Like, that's not true. Like, that's not what happens. Like, you go to an audition and like your first, and it's your big audition. Like, you don't book it, you bomb it. Like, that's what happens. Like, and it takes you like all these other tries. There's just all that stuff. But that is like a true Los Angeles story of like a woman who is just like hustle, buying billboards of herself, advertising herself. And then to this day.
She didn't even buy them. That's the thing. She didn't even buy them. I don't want to spoil it for you, but she didn't buy them.
Shut the fuck up. Okay. Even more exciting than I didn't know. But I saw her West Hollywood by on the little side street right next to
the one that's by
Tender Greens.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
In the show, they're on that street for a second too.
I was doing a video shoot for, I think it was like a Converse ad, or I think it was Converse. I'm not entirely sure, but I was doing that with this director, Karen, who I've like worked with a bunch. She's like wonderful. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's Angeline. Like, we have to like, we got to see if she can like be in this or do something. And I was like, I had no idea who she was. And she was like so excited to like tell me like the story. She's like, she is like an icon. Like, this is like an icon, like a living legend of Los Angeles. And like, we walked up and like within 2 seconds, she's like, do you want to buy a t-shirt? And she was like, oh, I was just like, oh. Yeah. And she was like, well, I'll give you like this much to like for me to be in the video, this much for a photo, and like this much for every minute after. And I was like, wow, hustler. And she was like, yeah, I respect it. And she bought like Karen, I forget what Karen bought, but she bought something. It was great.
Yeah. I respect her so much after the show, but also Angeline doesn't like the show at all because she thinks that only she can play her. So But I'm like, this show takes place when you were young and you're like in your 60s now. So kind of hard for you to play yourself, but sure.
Hey, I respect the
Mhm.
the commitment and the confidence and the
Yeah,
capabilities.
and they
because
they paint her in a great light. It's not like this is some
Oh,
show
yeah.
that's like talking shit about her, but it paints her in a good light. So
That's so interesting. Do you watched
Yeah.
Hacks, right?
I haven't watched the new season. I didn't
Okay.
realize the new season was out until you started posting about it. So
I
maybe
was
I'll
only
binge
watching
that this
season 1
weekend.
though.
Oh, okay.
I'm on season 1.
Okay. Then yes, I've watched all season 1. I binged
That's
that
another-
in like 2 days too.
Yeah. Recommend it to everybody. It's
Mhm.
so funny. It's like pain. Mott's was saying, he's like, some parts of this like are really uncomfortable to watch. I go, yeah, because we know people like this.
Exactly.
That's why you feel like
Mhm.
visceral secondhand embarrassment, because like you're just putting the people that we know in the spot.
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm interested to know if anybody that's listening to this show and you don't live like in LA, do you like it? Because it feels like a show that's so insidery that I don't know if other people enjoy it, because it also gets so many accolades within the industry, and I think it's because people see themselves in the show.
Yeah, I would be really curious if you don't live in LA or you don't work in like the entertainment industry. Because yeah, I think that like if I didn't, I would look at it like a Schitt's Creek, where I'd be like, this is so campy, and you have to kind of get used to the style and the camp of it, where you have to like immerse yourself into it, because like the acting on Schitt's Creek is like really big acting. Like it's not really subtle. And you have to, I don't know, it's kind of like getting into a hot tub. You have to like assimilate yourself into it before you can really enjoy all of the jokes and catch all of that, because you have to succumb to their world. It's like you can't watch a fantasy movie without like being like, I'm believing in dragons at this point. Like I'm not going to say no or contest any of it. So I wonder if it's like that for some people, because like it feels so wildly outlandish. Lots of attractive people too, like sexy. I will say though, I wish there was a trigger warning for this stuff, because like it ruined like 3 days for me, and I like did not sleep all night. I was like a ball of anxiety. There is like one in season 1, episode 5, titled Falling, which if you've seen it, you know how dark of a title that is. Massive trigger warning for like lots of drug usage and suicide.
Oh yeah, that one was wild. After I watched that one, I was like, what the fuck was this?
I knew based on I was like really disappointed at first, which like I still am. I really, really hate how we depict especially in shows we're making now, I really hate how we depict drugs in them. I also think like it's really negligent if we're going to make shows that are currently set in this time period without showing people testing their drugs for like fentanyl or anything, if it's supposed to be like a positive thing. And spoiler alert, it doesn't end well in this, but the drugs are not a result of that. And like that part like still really really irritated me. So if like you get triggered like watching people do drugs, which I do, I just really hate how they I really hate the depiction of like drugs on television as a fun, careless kind of like letting loose, freeing sort of thing. Because yeah, it romanticizes them in general. And like we don't need to give free press for people having good experiences with drugs. You know what I mean? Like there's just you don't need that. I
meant to look up if that was based like that they base that on something out of their life.
I don't know. Maybe, but I think anytime you show someone taking drugs on television or movies now, and that you don't show them testing the drugs.
Drugs.
Me too.
I hate seeing drugs on TV.
Anyways, those are our TV shows that we're watching. I know you care immensely, everybody, but I guess I should let you know what this podcast is. It's where we give wonderful, life-changing advice. And if you're wondering, how do these bitches have the credentials? And what I would say is turn on the Patreon, subscribe. It's $10,000 a month for haters like you. And you will see all of our credentials hanging up on our walls.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not a lie.
Actually.
Yeah, for you. It is true. And for me,
even
clearly.
Though half of them have fallen. Yeah. Yep, that's true.
All of my credentials. Dark. And for non-skeptics, our Patreon is only $1 a month or $5 if you want to join our live streams. But anyways, we give advice. And if you want to call us for an upcoming episode, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. International listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. And we haven't had to do this disclaimer in a while, but I have been getting a lot of messages on my personal account. I don't know if I've been seeing them on our podcast account, but
I haven't seen whatever you're about to say.
We don't give advice through DMs or DM messages.
No, I take that back then.
Yeah, we just do it through phone calls and the voicemails. People have also used voice changers, and international listeners, I didn't say, but you can send us an audio recording to meghanpodcast@gmail.com. But we don't answer through DMs. If you're concerned about people knowing the details or figuring out that it's you, change people's names. Like, you can change things that are like really inconsequential to the situation. And also lie if you get confronted. Normalize being better at lying. That's like my favorite advice that I've given in our Facebook group, where someone was like, what should I do? This situation, like blah, blah, blah.
I couldn't read that whole thing.
It was a lot.
I saw your response, but it was too much. I couldn't read it.
I literally just said, I think you just need to learn how to lie. I feel like all of this could have been avoided if we just lied better.
I was trying to get the gist of what was going on from everyone, and everybody was responding, but I still don't know.
You know, it was a friend who thought they liked someone, and then another friend, and it was very much like, oh, I'll talk to them. But
and then I was done.
Just lie. This is a pro lying. This is a pro robbery and pro lying show. And pro.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Abortion.
Ethically.
Anyways.
Should we get into the update now?
Let's fucking go.
So I was on the episode called Sparks When Dating, and my call was in reference to Sparks When Dating. And I was had been on a couple of dates with this guy, really, really nice, physically cute, but wasn't really into it. But prior to that, I'd sort of been in a relationship with somebody who was really good on paper, not very sparky. But then prior to that, a couple of years before that, I'd been in a relationship with someone where sparks off the charts, literally in love with him. And it just sort of ended in a really amicable, annoying way where no one did anything wrong. And I was sort of oh, am I just destined to a life with no spark ever again? Should I just keep going with this guy? Should I give up? And the advice that I got was essentially, keep going with it, kind of manage your expectations. Obviously, your first love's always going to be intense and you might not find that exact thing ever again, but don't write it off. And I took that, I went on 3 dates in total with this guy. They were really lovely. He was really thoughtful, really kind, came up with great ideas. Good, great. But neither of us clearly were feeling it that much, because we had a bit of a conversation. He texted me like, can I call you? And I was like, I see where this is going. So he called me and he was like, yeah, this isn't really going anywhere, is it? And I said to him like, no, it's not. And he was kind of keen. He was like, you know, if you'd still like to do things as friends, that would be great. And I said, oh yeah, cool. But like, obviously in my head, I'm like, I don't really need another friend. I'm fine. But this was fine. And then left it there. And since then, I've kind of just sort of not really been that fussed. Like I've spent a lot of time with my friends. I've not been like sad or anything. I've just been like spending loads of time with my friends because that's who I want to spend my time with. And I've realised like dating apps aren't doing it for me at all. Like I think I've realised this is a huge flaw for me with dating apps. A guy being on a dating app is a bit of an ick. So they're just never going to work, because the idea of a guy updating his Hinge profile makes me feel sick. So I've given up on that for now. But a slight update that's kind of related to this whole saga is that I actually, in a very not manic way, even though it sounds a bit manic, texted the ex-boyfriend that I was like in love with, and I consulted my friends. I did it in the middle of the day, sober. Like it wasn't anything scary. And I basically said, like, hi, hope you're well. Was just thinking if you're ever in, because I know he comes to my city sometimes because he has friends here. I was like, next time you're in my city, it'd be really nice to have a catch up. And he was like, yeah, that sounds really good. I'll definitely shout you if I'm ever there. Hope you're good. And that's where we're at. So that's
a daytime booty call
that might happen.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's an emotional thing, because I've realised, I think sometimes we really
romanticize.
Even like kind of the opposite. I think I've sort of over-rationalised it, where I've like gone to therapy and spoken about this ex and gone, oh, I must still care about him because he represents this, or because of this, or because of this. And actually, I think I just missed him. Like, I think I was overthinking it. I think I just miss him because he's a nice person. And it'd be nice to see him. So that's where that's ended up. And I probably won't date anyone for a bit. So there you go.
I want to contest your anti-dating app thing by saying I completely understand. And I think that like you don't have to like dating apps in the traditional sense, or like utilize them in the traditional sense. I saw Moth on a dating app, and like we knew in real life, and like I can't tell you how much of an ick I got when I saw his profile. I was like, oh my god, ew, weird. Like, and like we were friends. But like there were some people like on there, like if you look at any of it hard enough, or you like look at it like as a concept, like, yeah, it's weird. Like as a concept, like I don't think anybody is like, I love the idea of looking at this guy and seeing that he's like picking these pictures of himself and whatever. That, like I think there's a way to kind of decode. And my biggest thing was like, if I think you're cute, that's like whatever, but it's mostly like I'm looking for someone who's like personality I can see through a dating app. So like, do you have a picture of something that's funny? Like I'm not looking to see if I think you're like super hot. Like it's, am I attracted to you? But also like, sure, visually am I attracted to you, but am I attracted to like the kind of person you seem like you would be? And then your answers and like relying on that a lot more. And then immediately getting into like a conversation, because you basically just like sift through all the people that you might meet in real life, but just you would never spend that much time directly. Like it's just like it takes the huge pool that you have and then gives it to you like at your fingertips, which like you don't ever really have that other opportunity. And I think like I will say though, because you do value like the spark, that is something that I think you can. Dating apps might be something like kind of fun for you if you like end up seeing someone who you think is like kind of cool, and like with no pressure, no expectations of like having a date or whatever, but just like a banter back and forth in the messages and that kind of thing. Like I think like we don't have to use dating apps to like explicitly go on dates through them, but just to be like, oh, to like practice like talking to someone, or like a confidence boost. Like I think just like having those kind of interactions, and especially if you like decide when you want to kind of like start dating again, I think it's a really good way to, if you are someone who like I therapize everything in my life. Like my therapist is like, you're allowed to like feel things, right? Like not everything has to be like, I'm very much that same way where like I like had a really hard time understanding the concept, and I still have a hard time, where it's like, just because you understand why you feel that way doesn't mean that like that's you feeling it. Like you have to feel it. Like it doesn't matter why you feel it. Like it's a great thing to know, but like you can't like intellectualize like your problems and your emotions. So sometimes it's kind of just fun in that instances, if you find that you tend to do that in relationships where you feel like dates where you don't feel like you owe something to someone, but like you feel more obligated to keep up a conversation because you're in person, or you feel like you kind of have to perform a little bit more. There's something really low stakes about dating apps that can, for me personally, I found were really good at getting me out of my head and making me just kind of like act on impulse and like be like fun and flirty and like go for the things that felt kind of more spark-like without feeling like there was an expectation on like the success of like a date or whatever. So I wouldn't swear off dating apps as a whole. And I have lots of friends who like met their partners like in real life, but then saw them on a dating app and then found out they were single that way and then like asked around. And like it's a good way to just also know people in your like, you know what I mean? Like you might then see someone like, oh, I think we matched on, like that happens all the time where like you'll meet someone later on, you're like, I think we matched on a dating app. Like that's so funny. Like it's just kind of like you went to college with my cousin. Like it's just like this like weird connection that can be helpful.
For sure, yeah.
Maybe.
But have you set a date with the new fella? Not like a date, but like put it on your
old
daytime
fella,
booty.
new fella.
Yeah. Your daytime booty call?
Well, it's not, there's no date. I don't know when he'll ever be here, but I know he does. Like the summer's coming up. I know he visits people here. I'm like, it will happen, but I don't know when. But it's like in his court. Do you know what I mean? I was very careful to send something that was like, not like, I still think about you all the time. It was like, it was very like, oh yeah, if you're ever here. So I have no idea.
Okay.
But I feel like probably in the next couple months.
Okay. Hey, are you
Hopefully.
continuing to chat with him, or this was just
No. As in, we've been broken up for like 3 years. So it would be a bit weird to be like texting back and forth. I feel like it would feel weird. So we haven't.
I was just wondering. I'm just asking questions here. How long were y'all together?
Like, not even a year. This is the mad thing. It was literally not even a year.
How old are you both?
We're both like 23, 24.
So
we
then
were
you
like 18, 19.
Okay.
At the time.
Okay.
That checks out completely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That is like, I don't mean to say this is like a, like, I want to, like, this is like so, I don't want to say like, oh, this is so common as in like, it's not special or something, but like, there is this sweet spot of being 18, 19 when you are not you're not a kid. You don't feel like a kid. Like you have this independence and you have this agency, and like that I went back, I compared everyone to that, like that time period love of my life. Like that was the one that like, that would be my go back, my like back. And then eventually he wasn't, like eventually it was like someone else, but like that is like, there is something really, really like unique and special about like the person that you fall for or date at that time, and like romanticizing it, yes, but also just like, I think it's a really romantic part of your own personal life, and whoever's with you during that time tends to kind of like, that becomes another like, it's just like this, that's the fucking age and like the summer and the time that they make fucking teen movies about. Like that is the time. So like it is a romantic kind of time, and whoever's with you there, like whatever music you listen to at that age period, like that time, you know what I mean? Like all of those things like have that like nostalgic kind of feeling and like comfort and like love there. So like that makes total sense to me.
And I think as well, I'm sure any of your UK listeners will understand that particular summer of like 2018, it was like the World Cup, Love Island, hot weather. The UK was an incredible place to be. Anyone you were with at that time, you're like, that was the best time of my life.
Yeah.
I miss them. I want to move back to the city I lived in. Like, it was a crazy summer.
Do you think that it's him that you miss or that time?
well, this is the thing, because I've gone back and forth on it so many times, obviously, and tried to look at it so, not obviously you can't look at it objectively, but try and look at it in a really rational way and like talk in therapy and do all of this about it. And I realised that with him as well, it was the nostalgia factor, and also he represented a lot of things that I felt deficient in. So he had really strong friendships, I didn't. He had really good relationship with his family, I didn't. He had a lot of drive, I didn't. Like, he had all these things that I felt like I didn't. And so I've made a real effort in the last few years to really build myself up in those categories where I feel really strong in those categories. And I thought it would just go away. I was like, well, once I do that, that's gonna disappear. And then I've realised actually it hasn't. And actually,
do you kind of want to show him?
Maybe. I think so. I think that too. But I'm like, do you know what? Because I don't see a therapist anymore, but when I did, like, she literally said to me, she's like, why don't you just text him? Which I didn't expect her to say. I thought she'd be like, don't contact him at all. And she was like, why don't you just text him? What's stopping you? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? And I was like, I can't, because then it will be desperate and whatever. And now I'm like, I actually don't care. I'd actually like to go for a coffee with him. And whatever it is, it is. I'm
looking forward to this.
Me too.
I want to hear. I want to hear all of the follow up. We don't even have to. If you don't want it to be on the podcast, it doesn't have to be. I just want
personally. I am curious though, if you're gonna go and if you're gonna realize that like maybe it's not all it is, because like I totally understand in the sense of like, when you are attracted to people who have things that you personally feel like you lack, relationships are mutual, but like at that point, like when you feel like you don't measure up in these certain areas, when someone who has those things picks you, that makes that like fills your cup, but it doesn't actually fill your cup. Like it just, it makes you think it does. And like, it feels like it, but it's not actually happening. So I do wonder if some of the sparkliness of him and all of that was this thing of like this longing of this thing that these things that you didn't perceive yourself as having or being insufficient in. And now that you've done all of the self-work to have those, I wonder if you're going to see him. And like, it's not that he is like not a good person or like is still like really kind and like really great or whatever, but I wonder if that like luster, like that sparkle around him will be dulled, you know?
Well, and that's what I'm intrigued to see. Like, I was talking to my friend about this, who's known me like for 6 years. Like, she's known me throughout this whole thing from when I was like a teenager. And I broke it down into like 3 kind of possibilities. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. But I was like, the first one is, you know, we meet up and it's just sort of, I still feel the same way. He doesn't feel the same way back. And that's that. And I have to move on. The other one is we meet up. We're like, wow, why did we ever end it, like whatever, this is great. Or the third one, which is honestly quite likely possibly, is that I'm like, oh, is this not in a horrible way, but like, is this the person I've been obsessed with for 3 years? Are you joking? Like,
I've done that.
He's like a normal 24-year-old boy. Like, what is this?
Not to go against things that we say, but it's a form of closure, and seeing if you're comparing everyone that you've met now to that idea of what he was.
Yeah.
And then you become the thing that's sparkly. Like you get to like, and I think that's like, not to be cheesy, but I think that is like a really beautiful thing. Like once we get older, is like the people we choose to surround ourselves with are people we want to be like and people we aspire to kind of be like. And it's not like we're sucking the glow or the sparkle out of them, but it's like, we're not consciously knowing that we're doing that, but we're surrounding ourselves with people that we admire and we aspire to be like. And when those are healthy relationships, they like empower us to like be better people and to like to adapt those things into our life. And then eventually like then you realize that not that people are stepping stones, because like they're obviously individuals and all of that, but it's like, oh, you came into my life for a reason. That was the reason. And that doesn't mean that what we shared wasn't great and wasn't beautiful and like wasn't really honest at the time, but I was in awe of your sparkle before, but like now I'm sparkly, like I'm in my own sense. And like now the people that I'm surrounding myself with are people who like I respect and I feel like are my peers and aren't people that I'm trying to emulate and be like because I'm trying to improve myself. Like, and I think that's again, it's all a subconscious thing, but I'm so curious to hear how it's going to go, because
so invested in this.
Melissa knows I've done this, and I literally sat down and was like, oh God, this is.
But then the outcome is going to be good no matter what, because it's just going to be, it's either like you were meant to be with him and so you're going to get back together, or you know that you're not meant to be and you can continue to move forward in your life. But either way, you're still coming out stronger on the other side.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. And I think some people do these sorts of things under the guise of like, they say it's like, oh, it's for closure. And like, to be honest, I think ultimately closure is something that you give to yourself. So that's why I'm not doing it under the guise of like, this is for closure. I'm not doing it for a particular reason. It's like, these are the things that might happen, but this is what I want to do.
And that's why you weren't ready earlier when your therapist said to text him.
Yeah.
Because it would have been, I would have said it was for closure, and it wouldn't have been. It would have been because I wanted to get back on it, basically.
It's like the no stone left unturned thing that like my therapist always says, that she's like, I do that. And she's like, there's nothing wrong with that. You just have to know, like, it's the timing of when you do that. Like when you're doing that and you're looking for something where you're like, I need to turn all these, I need to find something, versus being like, you know what? I think it would really help me. Like, I have this thing in the back of my head and I don't care what the outcome is, but like, I just got to know what's under it. Like, I just want to know, like, it's not going to change. It's not something that I'm like not living my life because of this, but it's kind of like an itch that I need to scratch. And like, I don't really have any skin in the game of how I want it to be. I'm just like, my curiosity is getting the best of me. And she was like, yeah, like, dude, there's nothing wrong with that. And like, you just have to know when to do that. And I think like you clearly know when. And we are very much looking forward to hearing what the results of it is. Because yeah, like Melissa said, like you come out on top either way.
Exactly.
Which is exciting.
That's what I'm hoping for. But we'll see. Amazing. It could literally be like in a year. Who knows? I have no idea when he's going to... He might never text me back.
And then he might eventually do it and you're like, I don't want to see him.
Yeah.
Truly.
We shall see.
Beautiful accent. We'll never be over it.
Lovely.
Lovely. Absolutely. That's not a very good impression. So I'm so sorry if, to them if they're hearing this right now. But I know that's not good. My accents are not great. Melissa did clock my Italian accent a bit ago. She goes, is that what you're trying to do? Clearly not well.
Not well, bitch. Anyway, thank you for sharing. We appreciate it'll help a lot of it.
Shall we?
All right, should we?
This is our last, I swear to God, this will be our last virtual one for a while. I was supposed to go to Melissa. She literally blew her back out.
I did. And not in a good way.
No, in a bad way. Cleaning, and I was going to come over, and by 9 a.m. I had already shit like 5 times, and I was like, I can't trust my bowels to get me to your place. So IBS 1, Meghan 0. To be fair,
with something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
IBS like
probably way more than that.
IBS has ruled my life, my whole life. So next time, I swear.
Hey guys, I am 26 years old. I go by she, her pronouns. The 2 people involved in this story go by he, him pronouns. One is my now ex-boyfriend of 3 years. He's 34, and another is a guy from work that is one of my best friends. I've known him over a year. He's 32. So backstory is my relationship was really struggling over the winter months. My boyfriend had just started his own business. I was really supportive. It kind of started to get overwhelming though with the 24/7 like talk and work and all of that. So it wasn't just that. It was like COVID was the middle of our relationship and we were together like 24/7. And that kind of continued after COVID. We would invite each other to every single thing we were doing. The So I think that was an issue with us too. I moved in with him 2 months after we started dating. So it's like we never really like had the dating phase. We were just kind of like thrown into like this, like almost like a marriage, it seems like. So anyway, I have been close with this guy at work for a really long time. One night we're out getting drinks and he tells me he has feelings for me. That immediately threw me into confusion because I'm already having problems with my boyfriend at the time. And now he's telling me this, my friend, which made me kind of feel like, oh, I think I have feelings for you too. So I didn't really know what to do in that situation, but I knew that my boyfriend and I like should take time apart regardless. We both need to go to therapy in a very serious way. He needs insurance. I need to just be more independent in general. I'm always glued to my partner. So we decided to break up. Me live in my own place. So I got my own apartment farther away from him. So we decided to like work on ourselves. That was like the goal of our breakup with the possibility of like getting together in the future. The problem is that me and this guy from work are still hanging out and my feelings for him have gotten stronger, but also my feelings for my ex have not gone away and we're still hanging out, sleeping together, being near each other all the time. I don't really know what to do. I know that I'm supposed to be working on myself. I don't really want to move on because I don't want to lose the possibility of getting back together with my ex. But also I feel like I should give this new guy a shot in some capacity. I'm just so fucking confused. I need some honest advice. You guys are always the most brutally honest, which I really appreciate. Thank you so much. I really hope that I can get some good advice from this. Love y'all.
I think the biggest thing here is that you're working on yourself. So what do these possibilities? They shouldn't matter right now, in my opinion. If you're working on yourself, the possibilities, they don't exist because that's not for you right now. Like if it's meant to be, or if you feel like that this is something you want to pursue later on, then cool. But this isn't the time to even be entertaining those possibilities or to be holding on to the thoughts of being with these guys, especially since you have two people that you're interested in, two people that are interested in you, but you don't even know what you want. You don't know what you need right now. So how can you can't work through that while you're still thinking about, I mean, you can think about them, but you can't work through that while you're still trying to hold on to them. So I would say stop talking to both of them. I know you haven't talked to the work one because it's work, but like anything outside of work, outside of don't be friends with him right now too, because you can't separate your feelings from him for friendship. So just set up boundaries for yourself. Push your feelings aside for now and work on yourself.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. Like, you're not working on yourself right now. Like, what you're doing is you're back burnering both of these people, but like you're stirring both the pots. Like you're trying to keep these control these situations in a way that is affecting how you are, quote unquote, working on yourself. Because like the possibilities are not, that's not within your control. Like that's at all. And like, if you're trying to like orchestrate how to keep the possibilities alive with both of these relationships, like you are sacrificing like you are sacrificing this because like right now you're trying to mold your life around keeping these things afloat that have absolutely like nothing to do with your own personal self-growth or anything like that. And I think like being self-aware of knowing that you're always really attached to a partner, like just because you're not like in a relationship doesn't mean like you're doing the exact same thing. Like you're just doing it in a different font. Like, so I think if you can you've detached from the labels, like you're not living with him anymore, like you've created that separation, but that's just like the start of it. You're not officially together. So like Melissa said, like you stop talking to both of them. You stop hanging out with them socially. You see your coworker and you, if it's something that you want, like you tell them like, hey, I just want to let you know that like I really wanted to work on myself. And I have realized that despite moving out and breaking up, like I actually haven't been actively doing that. And so I am creating this boundary for me that like I'm going to take some time for myself. And that means like not being communicative and like being like friends with you right now. And like, that's not to say that that won't change like later on, but I'm not going to be able to get to where I personally like need to be with maintaining these relationships as they are, because I'm not growing. Because these relationships, even though we're not calling it boyfriend, girlfriend, we're not calling it like partners, we're not calling it what it, it's still the same people and still the same timelines and still the same everything. Like I need some change in order to actually change like myself. And if the person who you're like going to be with, or like whatever you believe for like destiny, soulmates, whatever it is, but even in on the much smaller scale of like, I don't want to do anything. I don't want a decision I make to then jeopardize the what if with this person. If you prioritizing yourself and not being like, hey, I'm going to do my own solo thing and work on myself. If that is what stops you from being with those people, they don't want you to do that. And then they're not good people, and they're not the people that you should be with. Like you should never have to compromise self-growth it's literally holding yourself back to be with someone else. Like walking on eggshells with like a partner or like a future partner of like, well, I need to watch what I say. I need to watch X, Y, and Z and all of that. Otherwise I might lose them. That's not being truthful or honest to yourself. That's like forming yourself to mold to like what you think that they want and what is going to be the best. And then you're putting all this responsibility on like quote unquote keeping a relationship like on you, that it's not like an active participant, that you're both in this together. It's that like you are holding on to this and you've like orchestrated this. I think a lot of this happened in the pandemic of people like we're very anti moving in together with someone like really, really soon, but this happened in the pandemic and like I do not blame anyone at all. And I think that it bred a lot of codependent relationships and
you couldn't go anywhere. So like this was the way to protect people. So that's what you had to do. And some people, it turned out great. And some people it didn't. Some people, they weren't ready for this. Some people these were unprecedented times and we didn't know how it was going to affect us mentally. And so you did what you thought was best for you at the time. But now we're, like I've started to say, now we're post vaccine. And so we're still very much in the pandemic, but like now you can see what was actually happening to you and to your partner at the time. And now you've separated yourself from that and you can see the big picture, but you're not actively working towards a better outcome.
Yeah. I think you need independence and agency, because even you saying that the coworker exactly, like the coworker who said that like I have feelings for you, that was the moment you realized you also might have had feelings for him, that it feels like other people are kind of in the driver's seat of your life. And I think that's probably why you feel like you need to hold on to these possibilities and it's all these plates spinning in the air as if it's your responsibility. And I think you probably feel like that because you don't feel like you've had a really heavy hand in these situations, that these situations are more delicate and like they came up by chance as opposed to like really thoughtful, careful decision making on both parts. And that when it feels like something that's fleeting or random or a surprise, like those things we grasp onto because they feel, if they came as quickly as they did, they can go as quickly as they came. And so I think that like the best thing you can do is to just spend time with yourself and like, yes, go to therapy, but also like find hobbies that you like that are solo hobbies, like make new friends, spend time with old friends, like write letters to people you haven't talked to in forever, start a new TV show, go on walks, like plan trips that you want to take by yourself, do things that it's like, you're of the age of like, what the fuck do I want to do? What the fuck do I like? And like, once you can figure out all of that and who you really are, then it's not about, oh, are these people, potential people, are they going to wait for me? It's like when I figure out who I am and I work on myself and I really start to have a relationship with myself, where not only like, do I really like myself, but I trust myself and I value myself and my decision-making process. And I know that like I'm looking out for me and I have the toolbox to address situations as they come up, but done with both of them. Done. Also, don't date coworkers. How many times do we have to say it?
I truly don't know. Only date them after they're no longer your coworker.
Mm-hmm.
Right, Megan?
Yeah, I'm marrying one. Eventually.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I just called, but I got cut off because I spoke too long. I did write it down. I just made it too long, so I wanted to resend my voicemail. I basically wanted advice on whether or not I should refollow my ex on social media. For some context, I'm 21, she, her, and I went through a breakup, and this was my first relationship with someone, they, them. It didn't end well, as essentially I didn't want it to end, and there was a lot of hurt feelings, and they did a lot of gaslighting towards me and said a lot of hurtful, dismissive things. During the breakup, they messaged me a lot and kept checking in with my sister, kind of saying condescending things and asking if I'm okay, and keep on mentioning things like, oh, like I know she's struggling a lot more than I am, and things like that. Additionally, he posted something on his account that he said was sort of like a tribute to like how they felt and their emotions, but kind of ended up coming off as quite hurtful, and to the point where my friends like DM'd me asking me if I was okay after reading that post. So we spoke again during Thanksgiving on the phone, and we were still willing to talk about what happened, and at that point I still wanted to be with them. And they basically said things trying to make me wait for them as like a maybe, while they weren't actually interested in pursuing me. Additionally, they said a lot like more condescending things, and were like kind of shocked at how bad I was feeling, and were saying things like, oh, like I guess it must have been hard for you because you didn't see it coming, and things like that. But they also like threw in some flirtatious things, and showed me a picture of myself, and they were like, oh yeah, like I saw this before and I thought of you, I thought it was cute. So after all of that like confusion and condescending behavior and belittling, I decided it was time to block them. So I did, and I've done a lot of therapy and started a bunch of new activities, and I truly feel really happy and over this person. I'm currently dating someone else, and I'm really happy about it. And I know that they're also in a relationship now. But I remember we talked about perhaps being friends in the future, and I remember a lot of the good parts of our relationship. I know I don't really want to be friends, and I know that after a lot of the hurtful things, I really don't want them in my life to that extent, but also a part of me thinks that if I follow them, it's like proving to me and also to them that I forgive them for the hurt that they've caused me, and to kind of show that I'm no longer falling apart because of them. But another part of me knows it doesn't matter because their opinion of me doesn't matter. So I'm not sure if it's going to cause more pain in the process or anything like that. So I guess in short, should I unblock him and refollow them or not? Thank you. Bye.
So before we get into this call, I just want to say that the caller, when they're talking about their ex-partner, they said they, them pronouns. And we're just going to be using they, them pronouns, though they did say other pronouns a couple times. We're just going to keep going with they, them, because that's what they said at the top of this call.
Here's my thing. I was going to say that you don't need to follow them back. You need to block them, but you say you have them blocked. So I think you need to throw away all your social media.
Good call. That's it. Thank you for calling. Goodbye. Now, this is like, I think truly what might be the most helpful is for you to go back and listen to your own call and recognize that you're like, okay, well, they said that they wanted, like we talked about potentially being friends. I don't want to be friends. And so I want to unblock them to show them and to show myself that I'm over it and I'm doing really well. And and with a new partner, they're with a new partner, I have like no feelings or anything towards them. I think you're mistaking what feelings are. Like you might not have romantic feelings. You've got feelings.
You have very strong feelings towards this.
You got big feelings. You've got big feelings. And that's fine. But you're allowed to like not get over something and have something be incredibly hurtful and like have that change your relationship with someone forever. And like, you don't have to, like, being the bigger person doesn't mean that you have to like forgive everybody. It just means that you move on, like you move on with your life. But if you feel the need to prove it to yourself beyond like proving it to them, but if you feel like this action is what you need to prove it to yourself, that means you're not where you think you are. Like, because if you were very fully over this, which again, I don't think you have to be over this, but like if you were completely over this, you would have no desire to unblock that. Like it wouldn't even be a blip on your radar, but they're still taking up space in your brain. It might not be romantic. It might not be sexual. It might not be like anything relationship wise, but like anger is a feeling and you still have anger towards them. And that's fine. You can always have anger to some people, but you can't have active anger because that means that they're occupying your brain space on a regular basis. Like if you think about them and you see them or something pops up that's out of your control and you're like, oh, God, yeah, that was bad. I really dislike them. That's totally fine. But you just can't in the situation that you can control, they just shouldn't be on your mind at all. And in attempts to prove this to yourself, like this, if it won't, because it's clear you're not where you think you need to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I have a ex that I broke up with a while ago and I unfollowed him. I had him muted for a while. I unfollowed him and I do not care what goes on in his life at this point at all. And so like he still follows me. He also still messages me a lot. And he has a girlfriend and I don't like follow him at all. I feel like it's more like that's even a stronger move is me not. I'll still like, if he sends me something, I'll respond to it, but I don't follow him. I don't look at his social media. I don't care. Like that's, you're not at the point where you don't care. And I don't think it'll be healthy for you to unblock them and follow back. Maybe you feel like if they see how good that your life is going, that it might make them feel a certain way about you. But in honesty, if somebody wants to see your Instagram, all they have to do is log on. They don't have to use the same browser like on a computer and they can see your Instagram if that's what you want. And if you want them to see what's going on in your life, they'll see it. And so you unblocking them it's not going to do any. I just don't think that's going to do anything for you because you're still mad and angry and this person is awful. And even though you've reconciled what your feelings were in therapy, it just doesn't feel like you're over this situation. Like this person did a lot of bad things to you, a lot of bad things. And I still think that you have like a part of your heart that still thinks of them. And it's just not going to be a good outcome.
No, it's not going to be good for your current relationship either. And like, even if your Instagram is private, like everything Melissa says, like that's completely true. And I think like part of the reason why you might want to unblock them is because you are worried that they're not thinking about what you're doing. Like you're worried they're not going to go out of their way to try and find out how well you're doing. And I say this in the most loving way possible. Like you're worried that they don't care as much as you do. And they might not. And like, that's good. Like if they don't care to know how well you're doing, that's the same way that you shouldn't care how they think you're doing or how you're like it. And if you feel like, part of me feels like wanting them to know how good you're doing is not just haha, look at me now, but it's like when you have a really rough breakup, it feels, especially when it's like someone breaks up with you, it can feel like I'm not good enough. I can't measure up. Like there are all of these like self-doubting, hating kind of things that come from there, that even though you're in a new relationship, it feels like maybe you think that having your ex think you're doing so much better will make you think you're doing better. But this is like a very active in your anger sort of thing. And if I was your new partner, I would be like really if I heard this call, I would be like, you're not over it.
Right. Because you said, like, you named off all these terrible things they did, things that they said about, was it to your sister or about your sister? Either way.
I think it was to your sister.
To your sister. And then they said these little things that are like breadcrumbing you to like make you feel better, just saying a few nice things and complimenting your picture. Like, I don't feel like you're over this yet. And unblocking them is not going to do anything but just bring more harm to yourself. So if you don't want to, since you don't want to be friends with them, why does anything they do, why does it matter?
Yeah, and if they were so bad and they treated you so bad, their approval should mean nothing. Mm-hmm. Their approval, their opinion, their thoughts on your life, like that should mean nothing. Like whoever they think is treating you well, that should be an indicator of, oh, need something better because they treated me like shit. Like someone who was so bad to you does not hold like the power or like know what is good for you because they were so bad for you.
Yeah. So you don't need to prove anything to them or to yourself in regards to this relationship. What you need to do is focus on being done with this person and focusing on yourself. Not even your new relationship, because I don't know if you can even give everything that you have to your new relationship because you're still not over this past one.
Like imagine if your new partner said this to you, like that this was like, you found out that they were like, I just want to follow my ex again, unblock them so they can like see how good I'm doing and how much like that would make you feel shitty. Like that would make you recognize that like, oh, this doesn't feel like it's like a aha moment towards the ex. Like it feels like those feelings are still there. Yeah. No. Focus on you, like Melissa said.
All right, time for a break.
Woo! We will be back.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests to share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
How should we come back?
Just like that.
And we're back. And just like that, Big died. Still haven't watched it.
Don't waste your time.
I won't.
Rumors are they're going to bring back Samantha, but with the new actress, I was like, oh, y'all are getting soapy, huh?
The fact that I memorized this number just shows. It shows. Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I love the podcast and everything. I am a 21-year-old female. She, her. Please excuse my voice and any hesitations. I have COVID currently at the moment because people are stupid and think it's gone, but it's not. So bear with me. Brain fog is rough. So I'm calling about my past relationship, or not my past relationship, my current relationship. Jesus Christ. To give a little bit more detail, I did call for the Don't Blame Them on the last episode, or 2 episodes ago, calling about feeling a spark in a relationship. So if that gives you a little, I was the girl on the hot girl walk, yes. So if that gives you a little bit more information on me and my boyfriend, then cool. So we've been dating. It's very new. We've been dating for about 3-4 months. And he's like my best friend, and I feel like I fell really hard and really fast because we just seem to be on the same page and everything. And I'm really happy, and I can really see a future with this guy because it's just like such a healthy relationship to the point where it makes me want to throw up. And like I've talked about in therapy, and my therapist is saying that it's just because I'm not used to being loved unconditionally, and it's a healthy relationship, and I just don't get it. So the thing is, this is a very first world problem. I just don't know when we're gonna fight. Like, we have no conflict. There is nothing about him that annoys me. There's nothing that he has told me that annoys. Like, we've had conversations about fighting. He's had conversation with his family members, his friends about fighting me. Not like fighting me, but like we have not had a fight, a disagreement, an annoyance, nothing like that. And I honestly cannot imagine what would cause it. And I know things will come up. It's just, I'm kind of just nervous about what it's going to be, when it's going to be. And I am getting so stressed about it. I have so much anxiety just in general, and now it's feeding into this, and he's really good at calming me down and reassuring me, but it's just like, I can't get this thought out of my head. Like, when are we going to fight? Are we going to break up? Like, what's going to happen? I don't know. I have this anxious feeling that, like, I don't know, because I'm so used to my old relationship, how we fought all the time. And literally, I feel like 3 to 4 months in, you should have at least a little disagreement or an annoyance. Like, literally nothing about him annoys me. So I just don't know what's going to happen. So I don't really know what I'm asking for. Just like reassurance. I don't know. Some advice, I guess.
You need to pick a fight. You need to start a fight. I say this with all the love in the world. Your last relationships must have really fucked you up, because 3-4 months, you should not be fighting. You should not be annoyed with your partner. You should not have any icks. You should not find anything about them annoying. You should not have anything that is brewing. You shouldn't be fighting. Like, this is like the ultimate honeymoon stage. Like, I truly don't think you experience, like, in long-term, like, healthy relationships, like, you don't really experience your first fight in, like, your first, like, real fight, I think, until, like, a year-ish, because, like, I don't think you're fully comfortable with someone. I think 2 years, depending on how old you are, and you're 21. So yeah, that holds up. I think if you're in your 30s, you can speed ahead, but in your early 20s, I think it takes 2 years to get really comfortable with your partner, in the sense that, like, comfortable with bodily fluids. Even if you think you're comfortable, like, 2 years is when, like, you're actually fucking comfortable. And that's, like, from the point of, like, comfortable fighting, like, actually, like, really not holding back. But no, like, again, I say this with love, like, you got fucked over in your last relationships. Like, in no way is it, I would be concerned if you were fighting already.
This reminds me, in a lot of Real Housewives, when a new housewife will come in that's watched the show before, and they feel like they need to pick a fight because they think that's what people want. Like, that's going to create drama, and you're trying to create your own drama where there is none. And that leads to you coming off insincere and not invested in what's actually going on right now. So you're sitting here waiting for the other shoe to drop instead of just focusing on your communication, how you're communicating, how you're talking to each other, how, like, if small things come up, how you're handling conflict. But, like, you don't truly know this person right now. Like, you're still, some of the blinders are on. You're not being yourself around them. They're not being themselves. And so just, like, kind of just enjoy the moment and live in the moment. And if an argument comes up, okay. If an annoyance comes up, okay. But, like, don't go into it looking for it to be this big blow up. Don't think that just chaos has to ensue at every turn. Focus more on what is going on now and how you're talking to each other, and even figuring out what like your communication styles are, because it could be something as stupid as like one person might think that you need to like use a rice cooker to boil rice, and the other's like, no, I can just boil it on the stove, and then you have a fight. But like if one person makes it to be this thing that's way bigger than it is, then maybe that's a red flag, because that's something so small and doesn't really matter in the long run. But stop looking for something to be wrong.
Yeah, I think like this is directly tied to the fact that like you say we love each other so much, we're best friends, we fell so hard and fast, and you've been together for 4 months, like 3/4 months, and usually in that instance it's usually the 3. It's trying to make it sound longer than it is. And like, so of course, if you have completely romanticized him and put him on a pedestal, like, of course it feels like when the other shoe drops, it's like 10,000 fucking feet. Like, my biggest advice is dial it back. Like, dial it the fuck back right now, because you are treating him like a god, that like the notion of getting in a fight will automatically lead to a breakup is absolutely devastating to you. Again, I say this with love, like 3 to 4 months in, you're putting too much. You're putting too much. Like, you are wearing your heart on your sleeve, which is not a bad thing, but like, you need to put your feelings and your love and your heart with someone you trust. And right now, if you're so afraid that a fight will, like, yes, that can be like something that's related to like past traumas or other relationships have ended up that way. But the only thing that you can control in these situations, and your only responsibility, is like protecting your own heart. And if you are looking at this right now as this man can do no wrong, and like everything about him is perfect, he has no flaws, like if we get in a single fight, we're going to break up, that's like I need to dial it back. I need to like take a step back. I'm getting way too engrossed in this relationship that I am losing myself. Like, this is something can be so wonderful and so great, but you still need to take your time with it. Like, you still need to do that. Like, you can love someone, it can be wonderful, they can still be your best friend, but when you go so hard and so fast right at the start, yes, it is more likely it's going to burn out a lot quicker than it is. But I just think that making decisions in regard to your relationship that protect your heart and your feelings while still being like vulnerable and honest, that is the only way that I think you're going to be able to quell your anxieties and to be feel like you have a little bit more control of your life, because right now it kind of feels like you're on a fucking roller coaster with no seatbelt.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I really need some advice here. So I'm 22 and my boyfriend is 23. We've been together for 3 years in July, and we have a baby together. A few weeks ago, he fell asleep with his phone unlocked, and I went through it because I just had a feeling. And I was going through his Google search history, and I found out that he was Google searching escorts near us and different massage parlors and things like that. He said he does it for the thrill, but doesn't go through with it because he loves me and knows I never deny him sex, and we have a good sex life. But there's a small part of me that thinks at some point he'll have a weak moment and go through with it, especially because he used to have an issue with paying for OnlyFans and premium Snapchats and things like that. And even when I found out about it, he had lied and said it was only one person, but then I found out it was more than one person. And that was over a year ago. So I feel like at some point he's going to have a weak moment and actually contact and meet up with these escorts. I don't know how to feel about it, and I'm being sent down a spiral. I have anxiety every single night, and I've completely lost trust. And I just don't know what to do from here. Any advice would help. I really appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Am I misremembering that he said something that like you don't ever deny me like good sex or something?
That's exactly what I wrote down.
Okay, so I'm not crazy. Okay.
You don't deny me sex. Like, that's the thing that stood out. I wrote it, like, I'm holding the phone because we're having some technical issues, and I had to like use one hand to write that phrase down, because him cheating on you is contingent on you always saying yes to sex. That's what I'm getting. That's what you got too.
Oh, I wrote it down, and then I thought I wrote it down, and then I went and looked back, and I was like, there's no way.
Also, him having a weak, you fear that he's going to have a weak moment where he meets up with someone. Someone doesn't do research, writes down numbers, seeks out these, because these can be a little bit hard to find, because it's not, I don't know where you are, but in the United States, it's, in a lot of places, it's technically not legal. So this is the research has to be well researched, and he's going to meet up with somebody while you're at home with your baby. That's not a weak moment. That's planned. That's premeditated, because you said no to having sex with him.
Yeah, no one gets their rocks off by looking at Yelp reviews to find out who gives a hand job. Like, that's not what's happening.
No, some people can. Some people have that excitement of just looking, but the way that he is coming about it, saying you never deny me sex, so I'm not going to go do this, that's the problem.
No, and
if
like
he has a kink where he's like,
oh, totally.
This really gets me off, just to research and the excitement of it, and I might get caught, and just looking at pictures like that. If he was being truthful with you and saying that's what was happening and that's where it ends, then that's it. That's where it ends. He's not going to say something like, you said no to having sex with me, so in a weak moment I went and did this.
Yeah, if there is no consent in your kinks, like that is not okay, and that's also like not welcomed within the kink community. So like he has repeatedly lied about, oh, it's not OnlyFans, I'm just looking, I'm not subscribed to anything, and then now he has made you think that suddenly, when he has been previously acting out on this, that instead he's just researching them again without your consent and without your knowledge. And that is now what gets him off. Like, that's not true. Like, it's just not true. And if it was true, you did not consent to that. That was not a conversation you had ahead of time. And I think you're both young, but you've been together for a long time. It's like, and he knows better than this. I think when you're younger, like sometimes there are kinks regarding like, oh, I'm really into what I'm into watching, what's it called? Not me personally, but we talked about with the big boobs, the succubus.
Yeah.
So like saying like, oh, that's something that I felt shame, so I was hiding it. So like, therefore I didn't, do you know what I mean?
Even like, in the succubus case, that's not even, in that case, they said that they were just into, just watching it, and then they went and acted on that.
Yeah, that's like, so my belief system is like, it is your responsibility if you have a kink, it is your responsibility to be honest, open, and forthcoming with your partner so they can consent to said kink. You cannot be doing it without their consent. And even if it's a private kink that is something with just you, if it involves something that could feel somewhat nefarious, I think in general, it's a good thing to be honest with your partner. But if it's something that could be construed in a way that is like, hey, this looks like you're trying to pay for sex from other people, it looks like you're potentially going to cheat on me, that is a conversation you have ahead of time. And hiding that is not because that's what he's doing. Hiding it is because he's following through on that. There's no shame in having a consensual kink that doesn't involve you crossing the boundaries of your relationship. But if you feel the need to hide it, it's because that's not what you're doing. And you know that. And that's I think the biggest issue in all of this is he's just won't fucking stop lying to you. He will not stop lying to you, and you deserve more than that. And it's not about a weak moment. And not only is he lying to you, he's making you believe that him cheating is within your control. And if he cheats, it's your fault.
It's
And
your
it's
fault
not.
because you said no to having sex with him.
And if you deny him sex, every time you have sex, then or he comes on to you in the back of your mind, it's, well, if I don't have sex with him, he's going to go pay for it with someone else. And he is putting that thought into your head on purpose. And the moment of weakness takes away any responsibility and culpability. Because like you said, it's premeditated. Not only is like you caught him in the research process of what he's doing, but I say this with love because you have a fucking baby. And I think that like you deserve like all honesty because this man's clearly not being honest with you. And so I know when sometimes people are honest with you, it can feel really, really harsh when someone's been lying to you. So just know I say it out of love. He's sleeping with these other people. Like he's paying for, this is happening. This is currently happening. And the reason why he's making it into your head to think that this is a possibility because he's giving you a baseline of his behavior, of what his behavior's like when he's not being unfaithful, but he is being unfaithful. So then you're going to think, well, he's acting like this now. Like, it's not like he's leaving the house more often than he was before. Like, he's making you think that right now he's not doing any of that stuff, but he is. And so no red flags are going to be raised because it's like, oh, well, he's still having dinner with us. He's still doing X, Y, and Z and blah, blah, blah. He hasn't acted on any of this because he's been behaving the same way when he was just in the research process. So it's just the research process. No, he is fooling around and doing that shit now and wants you to get used to that. And then when shit gets worse, it will be your fault. And this is like absolute bullshit. And it makes me so mad because like it's so clear from like how you're speaking about this that like he's like fucked up your barometer of like what's honest and what's not. That like you desperately want to believe him. And I understand that you want to believe him because there also comes a little bit of pride in not wanting to feel like you picked the wrong person to have a kid with. But that your kid's dad is as relevant or as irrelevant as you choose. And like kids, like that's not something that you don't have to make this work. You don't have to make this work in a romantic partnership and be disrespected like this. That doesn't change the fact that he's your kid's dad. Your kid's relationship with him, if it's a healthy one that you're comfortable with, that can be a wonderful, wonderful thing, but it is not riding on the back of like him just repeatedly treating you like shit.
And I don't think that you believe him. I don't think you'd be calling into this podcast if you actually believe that your relationship was solid and that he was telling the truth, because you've caught him in several lies before. So why is this time different? Because you don't think he's actually making contact? We're all for paying sex workers here, but it needs to be consensual on all parties' parts. If you called here to hear someone that doesn't know him, to hear us say like this man's lying, here it is. He's lying. He's lying. And take with that what you will, but like you want to be in a relationship that's truthful and honest. He's lied several times before. Why is this different? Because you don't think he's physically going there? He knows where these places are.
That's a level of paranoia you shouldn't have to live in. Like that's not happiness, and that's not a healthy relationship. And deep down, I agree. Like you call this podcast, you know us, you know our belief system on this, but also like you looked through his phone. And we've said over and over again, we are not anti looking through phones, but you look through a phone when you want to find something and you know there's something there. And even if consciously you don't feel like that, you do. And you don't believe his lie because you called. And I think you're tired of trying to believe his lies. And I think at a certain point, it's beyond disrespect and it's like beyond hurtful. And it just becomes a time when you start questioning your own reality and you need someone to like give you the permission to be like, you're not crazy. This is be done. I can't stress enough how much I hate him and making subconsciously, because I don't even know if you recognize it, that he's telling you that if he cheats on you, it's your fault.
All right. Time for Don't Blame Them.
Hell yeah. So this is where a caller will call in with their own advice pertaining to a call that we aired on a previous episode. Maybe they have personal experience or they have some insight that we didn't think about. And yeah, so we'll hear from them.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. So I'm calling in for a Don't Blame Them in response to episode 22 of the person that was asking for advice on dealing with FOMO. And I wanted to share that as a 27-year-old who has been in a long-term relationship, I can completely understand the feeling of not meeting where you're supposed to be at in terms of getting married or being engaged and all that good stuff. And it's especially hard when you have that timeline. And I remember calling in a while ago, like years ago, when I was in my early 20s and experiencing, you know, that FOMO and comparison and, you know, constantly expecting myself to be where other people in my life are at. And I remember the advice that I got. It was from a guest. They had shared the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. And that's something that I thought of for a very long time. And it's something that has reminded me going forward that when I am comparing where I'm at to other people, I'm comparing it to their highlight reel. And I don't deserve that, you know? Nobody does. So continue to just do your thing. You're on your own timeline and don't expect yourself to be anywhere specifically by a certain age, because when the things that are supposed to happen, they will. And you're going to love it and experience it at the time that you are ready for it. So best of luck and continue to focus on schooling and focus on your right now and don't worry too much about where you think you should be. So best of luck. Bye-bye.
Perfect. Cool. You know what I always remind myself, not for me personally, but in these moments of these calls, I always just think of you saying, everyone I know who got married young is on their second marriage. That practical and factual. And it delivers a punch. Like that really, it tells a story and it paints a picture.
Yeah.
So this is a very relatable thing. So I hope that the original caller was able to hear that as well and that helped. And yes, that is it for our episode. If you want to call us for an upcoming one, leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. And international listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. I don't think I gave at the beginning of the episode the requirements. So I'm going to do it now in case I didn't. Keep it under 3 minutes. We ask that you write it down and then you time it before you even start recording so you can make sure you fit it in 3 minutes. And also, it's just easier to keep track of your thoughts that way. For most of the callers, feel more comfortable that way. Let us know your ages. Anyone in this who's also in the call, their ages and pronouns if you would like. And just give us as much detail as possible because that's how we can give you the best advice. But if you leave out really important things like how long your relationship was, that can affect our advice. And then we're not giving you the best advice for your call. And we want this to be like effective. So those are the requirements. You have to be 18 or over, have your parents' permission. I'm not sure if I already said that. And
you did, but no worries. Keep it moving.
If you want to follow us on Instagram, you should do that. We spend a lot of time trying to make wonderful graphics and content. And we also have another podcast called But Am I Wrong?
Megan.
Yeah, Melissa does all like the podcast stuff. I do all I find the cute little pink
the
pictures.
Visual things.
Yeah. I'm the visual. That part. So please follow us there. Leave us a review on the podcast app. Please. We really appreciate that. And
we don't have any new ones this week. So if you haven't left a review, please do.
Please. And we have another podcast that comes out on Thursdays called But Am I Wrong? It's a wonderful, wonderful show. Give it a listen. And that's it.
Oh, also, you can leave reviews on Spotify now, too. So if you use Spotify, can you leave a review there as well?
Had no clue. Fantastic. Well, if you're still listening at this far, what should they comment on the Instagram?
Comment what you're watching on TV right now.
Yes, that's a great one. Great. And yeah, our own links will be listed down below if you want to follow us on other things that we do. And I think that's it.
That's it.
Oh, Patreon. I already said it, but just go.
Please.
Like, videos, watch visuals, smiling, haha, laughs. And also we do it topless. So, okay. Did you catch
what
we
I said? Never have on bras. That's a fact.
Never. Ever. Okay. Goodbye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me. Executive produced by Melissa DeMonts and Diamond Imprint Productions. Edited by Coco Lawrence. Post-production sound by Chris Henry. Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson. Music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the co-hosts of the Let me try that again. Merry Christmas, everybody. My name is Eric Peterson. I'm here with my good buddy,
Danny Jordan.
And we are the hosts of Christmas Countdown Show.
We're so thrilled to be bringing the merriment to you all this holiday season.
It's going to be awesome.
It's going to be massively merry, gigantically jolly, fantastically festive, as some people might say, Eric. We are all about alliterations, and we are all about Christmas spirit. On Christmas Countdown, we love to count down our top 10 favorite things related to the holiday season. That could be food, movies, music, everything that we all love about this massively merry good time. So wherever you get your podcasts, make sure you click that subscribe button. Eric, are you ready?
I am ready, and we hope that you are too. Merry Christmas, everybody. Let's go. It should be like, let's go, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone. So we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural then and now.